Sometimes we don't know in advance what the type of a variable will be. For example, when data is fetched from an external API. In these scenarios, you might use the any type. So, for example, let the data fetched from external API, let's call it data, and its type will be any. And data can be five number. Data also can be string like hello. When a variable is typed as any, TypeScript turns off type checking for that value, and we can perform any operation, and TypeScript won't warn you about errors. This can make our code harder to maintain, so avoid using any if it's possible and use it only as a last resort. A better and safer alternative is the unknown type. Unknown type. With unknown, we can assign any value like this, but we must check its type before using it. If we don't check its type, TypeScript will not let us use that value directly. For example, let's say we add 1. See, TypeScript gives error. Data is type unknown. So we can't do this. Or for any using, we need to check its type before using it. For example, if you want to do this type of data equal string, plug data dot to uppercase, for example. So now it functions, it works. So we need to check first if the type of data, our unknown variable, if it's string, we can do this. We can do this method and change to uppercase. That's why it's called unknown. It can only be used if its type, for example, it's string or its number, becomes known to TypeScript. The next type, when there's no value or it's explicitly empty, the type can be null. For example, Job title can be string or null. And the next type is undefined. When the value of a variable is not assigned yet or it's missing, the type can be undefined. For example, let's add new optional property to our employee class. For example, let's add manager. It will be optional and it will be employee type class also, same class. So if we check its type, it's undefined because it's optional. This is the sign of optional, and not every employee has a manager. For those employees, manager will be missing or undefined. And the next type is void. Sometimes functions do work, but they don't return any value to the caller. In this case, the function's return type, the type of return of that function will be void. For example, let's create function. Its name is like log status, and it will have parameters and will return void. So it will receive employee as type, employee class type, and it will do this. I console.log employee dot like status. So here this function will return nothing. So its type will be void. But it does some task here, like printing in console the status of employee. But it doesn't return anything to the caller of that function. And sometimes functions never finish normally, like those functions that always throw an error or have infinite loops. In these cases, the function's return type will be never. For example, function throw error message string, and its type will be never. So throw new error message. So this function will throw error message and it will never finish. So its type will be never. So our special types were any, unknown, null, undefined, void, and never. So any, it disables type checking in TypeScript and can be any value. And better we use unknown, but in the case of any, better to use unknown type, but we must check the type before using. And if there are no value for our value variable, so that will be null. And if the value is not assigned yet or it's missing, the type will be undefined. And if function doesn't return anything, the type of return will be void. And if the function throw errors and never finish, so the type of return on that function will be never.